Welcome to another episode of this Commerce Lab by Ecomcy. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you another session of questions and answers as we do every Tuesday at 5 p.m. GMT time in UK. So thank you everybody for joining for the first time and those that are returning for the show as we do every single week. For all those that are starting to see this session for the first time, I just wanted to clarify these sessions. I'm going to be usually a hybrid approach when it comes to questions and answers, and we're also going to be covering things such as news and new strategies before jumping to the questions, so you also can get as much value as possible. When it comes to the question, guys, remember you can send them to our team by email or social media or even myself personally. Usually we get all these questions from the previous week and then we cover them on the session. And then if you also want to cover any specific questions in the live session, you can also drop them into the comments or the live chat in whichever platform you're looking at us right now. I'm going to make sure to get them and also answer them in live for you. Also, I would like to remind you all of you that we just dropped a new episode yesterday, Monday. So yesterday we dropped an episode that was actually in Spanish, so it might be very interesting for those that also know Spanish. I want to learn about how to basically launch into new marketplaces. This one specifically is for Amazon Mexico. We all know that Amazon Mexico in the last couple of, I would say, months is becoming very trendy, and we've been speaking more about Mexico, especially also when it comes to sourcing new products and finding solutions to basically finding manufacturer. Basically solutions when it comes to going out of China or other countries and bringing the manufacturing closer for those at least selling the Amazon USA. But yeah, it's a very interesting episode. So if you know Spanish, check it out. If not, I'm gonna make sure to for sure bring somebody that can cover this topic also in English for you guys. Now, let's get started with the session. So as we started last year, we are basically changing a little bit the structure of these sessions. Usually now I want to start usually the first couple of minutes covering some of the news, things that I think you should be aware of. New changes in the Amazon space e-commerce, and then we jump into the questions as I say at the beginning. Okay, so now the first thing I wanted to point out, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen already this coming up, but still wanna mention it because maybe some of you haven't realized. But now you now can be eligible for what we call premium A+ content, right? So the premium A+ content basically is an enhanced version of the normal A+ content. And you can get basically different type of modules that are more larger, have different features and interactions that the customer can have with the actual panels within the A+ content. And the way you basically become able to get access to the premium A+ content is that, I mean, the first thing that you need to do, and I have the criteria here in front of me, is that you need to have the basically at least 15 A+ content completed for the last 12 months. And then you basically need to make sure that you has a brand story across all your ASINs. So if you have the brand story across all your ASINs, and you at least have a 15 A+ content across 15 ASINs, then you can be eligible for what we call the premium A+ content, which I have seen in action. I mean, the extra module that I give is very useful, and I would 100% recommend it, that if you are basically within the criteria I just mentioned, that you apply for it and take advantage of that. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover in terms of news. The second news I also wanted to cover, and this at least in the following marketplace is going to be in the UK, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and Netherlands. So Amazon now also launched something. Basically, they are providing you with an easier solution when it comes to fulfill by merchant returns, right? Solutions around how you can get your units back to you. So now they launched something called the Returns Provider Program, which is a RP, the abbreviation of the program. And basically, this is an option that if you don't have a domestic return address into the marketplaces I just mentioned, basically they can connect you with service providers that can basically deal with the returns, because we know that returns can sometimes be a nightmare with all the cross-selling things, all the implications when it comes to taxes and all of that, and the fees involved. So now Amazon make it much easier to basically get integrated with a service provider in those countries and deal with that. So you should be finding it if you go use a central account or look for a page called Return Provider Program. And in there you should be able to find all the steps to do the integration. Okay. So next news, something else. So when it comes to reporting, there's also those specifically that like to have good reporting around your FBA inventory, which that's something you guys must always do when it comes to understanding how is your inventory performance, the levels, and everything across the board. So you make sure you don't go out of stock, you understand the health of your account and so on. But now Amazon released something called the Inventory Ledger Report. So this one now basically makes sure that you usually back in the past when it comes to inventory, you need to download multiple reports. Now this report basically puts everything on the same window. So things that you're gonna find in there is data inventory history, you're gonna find monthly inventory history, inventory event detail, inventory adjustment, inventory reconciliation, and receive inventory. So very useful report, especially if you have some internal processes to keep track of your inventory, where your units are, and all of that. So yeah, take advantage of this new report. Okay. The other news I wanted to bring as well when it comes to brand analytics, brand analytics is also improving. So for all of you that have brand registered in basically you get access to brand analytics, make sure that you check it out. It's going to become effective now in August, so you should start seeing those changes now. And now the new brand analytics basically page is going to have updated user interface. It's going to have different column pickers, a metric glossary, and other different metrics that now are much more easier to basically play around and understand the data. I mean, jump into brand analytics and you're gonna see the difference. I just wanted to point that out in case you haven't checked brand analytics in the last couple of days, because these become effective in August. And check out the new dashboard. Let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah. And let's see. I think other than that, I wanted to point out also, guys. Remember that, for example, here in the Amazon UK, and I can see that across some of our clients already, you can already start uploading, for example, promotions for what we call the Fall Prime Day event. So we all know that that is rumored to be the new second Prime Day event. So check out that by going to basically advertising. You're gonna go to Prime exclusive discounts. If you go there, you should see a message. For example, in the screen I'm looking right here, I can already see a message that say you can now submit a Fall Prime Day event discount. Okay, so if you can see that, take advantage of that, because that most likely is what they're referring internally. I mean, that's all speculation to the second Prime Day, which they haven't released dates in terms of when it's going live. And I think other than that, the other thing that it would be nice for you guys to know is that also there is something called the end of summer sales event. So this one is basically they do Amazon does every day. It's usually towards the end of the summer they do this promotion window. Usually it happens towards the end of August, beginning of September. So if you also want to put your promotion for that, I'm not 100% the end of summer is open anymore. But yes, I mean, when it comes to the windows, usually for those that are interested into this new end of summer event, it's gonna be happening towards the end of August, beginning of September, at least among most of the European marketplaces. Okay, and I think, let me see if I have anything else. As you guys can see, I came prepared today. A lot of news. I told you I want to start doing this more often. I think this add a lot of value. So it's good, so we can all stay updated on the last things on the Amazon space. Yes, the last thing I wanted to mention is I know this is actually something not that new. It actually came into effect around June, towards the end of June, the product opportunity explorer. But the reason why I bring this to the table is because I have seen so many of the people I talk on a daily basis and clients, and when we do audits and we ask if they actually use this to keep expanding their brand and things like that, they don't use the product opportunity explorer. So check out your product opportunity explorer. This one at the moment, to my understanding, is just available in the United States. So basically, when it comes to using this tool, you for sure can use it just in the States if you have brand registered, but still it's very powerful because if you have specific niche and you run and you want to explore basically products that performing well or they have potential, Amazon gives you all those metrics from and even give you the top search terms, and you can then do further digging with software tools and things like that. Give it a try. I mean, sometimes we have found clients in the States that they were struggling in terms of coming up with new products. We basically analyze the niche further, use the product opportunity explorer, and I will start to discover ideas that they have found that actually make sense to add to the lineup. So take advantage of that, okay? And I think just to clarify, that I was looking at my notes here. So actually, the what I was mentioning when it comes to submitting your basically your asins for the fall fall Prime Day event. So as you can see, you can already start submitting them, but also you can still submit them for the end of summer. So I'll just double check now here, and you can still do it. So yeah, you can submit it for both end of summer and fall Prime Day event. When it comes to the dates, I don't have the exact dates in front of me, but I'm gonna make sure to drop them into the comments. So if you want me to send them to you directly, just send me a message, and I can send you the dates in terms of deadlines and things like that. Okay, awesome. So I think that's everything when it comes to news. I hope you guys find it very useful. So now let's jump into the questions, right? The questions we've been receiving for the last week. So now let's bring the first question to the table. And so the first question will be the following. How do I create a variation under a listing that doesn't allow variations? So yeah, I think the issue you're referring is that maybe you create the listing without variations, and then you went to edit the listing, you went to the variation tab, and say this one doesn't have variation or doesn't allow it. But actually, if the reality is the reason why it says that is because you create it without variations in the first place. It's not that it's not going to allow you to add variations. So the way around this, usually the quickest way to add basically further variations into a parent listing, I will create the second variation that you want to basically link to this initial variation as a standalone listing. Once you create this second listing, then what you want to do is create a third listing, and the third listing will be the parent listing. And within this third listing, which is a parent listing, when you're creating the listing and you're selecting the category, you're going to then go to the variation section. And in the variation section in there, you want to make sure that then you basically add the asins of the two initial listings, the first one you had in the first place, and the second variation you need to create. And those two are going to then be linked together in the third listing, because the third listing is going to behave as a parent listing. So in there, you define the variation. It can be size, it can be color, whatever is the variation that you want to add. And then from there, you create the listing and it goes live. And usually it links those two variations under one parent listing. Okay. Awesome. So let's see the next question. What advice do you recommend to differentiate a product? Yeah, I mean, differentiate a product is a daily dilemma, right? For an Amazon seller, it's always the most difficult thing when it comes to making sure you can stand out from the crowd and really bring a unique offering into the space. But I would say the number one thing that you want to do when it comes to differentiating a product is first understanding a need that hasn't been covered in your specific niche, right? So the number one thing that I know you may already have heard is that analyze what people is complaining about. So analyze the reviews of your competition, analyze what people is complaining. Maybe they complain that it's coming without a bag, they're complaining that's coming without this accessory, they're complaining nobody sells this color, this material, etc. Try to grab all these pieces among your competition and try to come up with a proposition that nobody is offering in the market, and also that's difficult to copy. So why do I say difficult to copy? Because if you find the solution very easily by just going to Alibaba, and as soon as you put the keywords you find the solution on the first page, it might mean that you're already late, right? Because remember, if people is already putting the product on Alibaba, you see multiple suppliers already showcasing the product multiple times, it means already they are seeing a demand among the suppliers of people reaching out to do this kind of product, and they started to put the product there. Another red flag might be you even see on the titles bestseller Amazon product or trending products, things like that. I mean, if you find the product very easily by go to Alibaba, that's a red flag. It means there's already demand in terms of suppliers knowing people is reaching out, and people is already talking about this potential product. It's a matter of time until it becomes saturated. It's a matter of time until those initial boxes and shipments that people bought from those suppliers reach Amazon, and then you go from having two competitors to within 30 days you find yourself with 30 competitors. So stay away from that. So I think in essence, to differentiate, make sure you fill a gap in the market, but also focus on the customer experience. I mean, focus on what the customer gets besides the product. Do they actually get something in terms of an experience when they open the box, in terms of a branding experience? Do they get access to exclusive access digital material? Do they get a special treat when it comes to warranty? Do they get access to specific specific perk, specific clubs, events? I mean, there's so many things you can brainstorm. And I think for sure it's just all a matter of making sure that it's all combined in a very nice branding. But yes, try to stay away for all those products that you can easily just find and then go to Alibaba and find them, guys, because it's a matter of time it becomes saturated, and then there is no way you can escape those. I think the best type of products are the products that usually you find from multiple manufacturers, and then you put them together, and therefore you stay away from people that can easily copy that, right? Awesome. So let's see which other question we've got in here. Do you think the low conversion rate affects the organic ranking? Yes, I mean, if you start generating sales and you start basically advertising a product, right? You start running ads, and basically you start running your advertisement campaigns, and you start generating clicks, traffic, and so on, and nobody converts. So over time, you start attributing a negative, what we call basically score to your listing, and this is what is gonna basically generate is that first of all, it's gonna give a bad signal to Amazon that you're not converting your main keywords. That is gonna make it more difficult for you to then start basically generating impressions in what we call your Amazon PPC campaigns, and then that is gonna generate a downward spiral, right? So it's actually very funny. I remember Casey used to call this the spiral of death. So if you start then lowering your conversions, you start putting even more money into PPC, you start even making your conversions worse, and your basically the history of your product worse, and then it's very difficult to save it. So I will say that if you start advertising, guys, I mean, at the beginning, for sure, your conversion is going to be low, and that's normal. I mean, don't worry at the beginning having low conversions affect your organic ranking, because you don't even have an organic ranking, right? But as you start transitioning, if you get in some positioning, and you start already being into advertising 1 and 2 months, and you see that conversion doesn't improve, then there is definitely some issue on the foundation of the product. You need to understand if maybe you got the pricing wrong, you got the images wrong, you got the copy wrong, you got the offer wrong, right? So focus on fixing those things, and then if the conversion still doesn't improve, guys, unfortunately, if you're making sure that you're targeting the right keywords and still nothing is improving, there's definitely a foundation issue when it comes to basically the offering. I mean, nobody's really interested into the product you're offering and bringing to the market. And yes, there's nothing you can do there. So I would say take care of the conversion. I mean, it's normal to be low at the beginning, but in the long term, if it becomes and stays low, definitely that's gonna affect your stickiness to when it comes to organic ranking. Okay. Awesome. So let's see which other question we got in here. Okay. How to find more reviews? Yeah. I mean, when it comes to reviews, to be honest, guys, the easiest way, if you have brand racer, I would say use the Vine program. That's the number one thing. The second thing I would recommend you to do, guys, is make sure you take advantage of the basically request and reviews automatization. You can use software tools for that to basically request reviews to your clients. And then just provide a very good product and very good experience. I mean, when it comes to reviews, I mean, you know, guys, I never would recommend anything that's black hat. Everything within the books and Amazon space, when it comes allowed by Amazon, those are the things that you can do. Also, they have an Amazon buying program, request reviews with automated emails that Amazon allows you to send once to your customers, and just provide a very nice experience. And then, I mean, if you want to even enhance it further, you can experiment with insert cards. You can experiment with, you know, added value there, and how that people really feel, you know, like they feeling the need to really share their experience, you know, like they really are happy to share the outcome that they got of the product. So if you really focus on those things, reviews are gonna come by itself. Okay, great. So let's see which other questions we're going to hear. What is your opinion on bid modifiers? So yeah, bid modifiers, for those that don't know, is basically something that usually you do to optimize the placements, right? So what do I mean by placement? You usually can modify top of the placement, and basically you can then modify also a product pages results, right? And rest of the search, which you can't. Now, why bid modifier is useful? Because let's say you start, and this comes all down to what I usually always preach over and over again, guys. Keyword segmentation is super important. If you don't make sure your keywords are well segmented and divided correctly among your all your basically type of understanding the search volume of your products, understanding the relevancy of your search volume, and then divide that correctly among multiple campaigns, what is going to end up happening is that they're going to compete between them. Most likely, if you put 10, 15 keywords among a campaign, just a few are going to perform. So why do I mention this and come back to be modified? Because if you have, usually the more ideal scenario is having 3 keywords max in a campaign, but then let's say within those 3 keywords you identify a winner keyword and you move that keyword by itself on a single campaign, then bid modifier is very powerful. Because then if you have a single keyword on a single campaign, then you have basically the placement reporting, and then it can tell you if you perform better top placement or product pages, and then based on that you can apply the bid modifier, because you may find that your product perform much better top placement, the product pages, and you may actually bid higher on those placements. Usually you can start with 20%, 30% bid modifier on top placement, and then you can play around. I mean, as long as the metrics and the results are paying back in terms of the performance that you need, keep raising it. But I think that's the power of bid modifiers, that you can make sure that the budget is used efficiently among the placement that, based on history and data, are performing better for your product. So yeah, I will always use, I mean, we actually use bid modifiers. The only way you can make sure that you're being as efficient as possible when it comes to using your budget. Next question: how do you recommend setting up brand defensive campaigns? So yeah, brand defensive campaigns, usually what it means in essence is that, let's say you have multiple ASINs. What you want to do is this usually applies, for example, with clients that they have, for example, let's say supplements, right? They have multiple supplements, different sizes, different presentations. And then what you want to do is protect the placements, right, from other competition to go under your listing and basically advertise under that, right? So how do you do that? So let's say you have your hero product. You know, your hero product is the one bringing it's like the 80-20 rule, guys. Usually on an Amazon account, you're gonna find that usually 20-30% of the ASINs bring the 80% of the revenue, right? So once you identify your top winner ASINs, you want to make sure that the ones that are not performing that well actually become your ASINs, to then target your own hero products and defend your hero product, and at the same time use the traffic from your hero products to basically spread some sales among the ASINs that are not selling that well in the first place. Then you create a halo effect. You keep people within your ecosystem, you keep people within your brand. So how do you do that? So the way do you do that is very simple. You do product targeting campaign. That's one of them. Basically, you target your own ASINs with pro targeting, so you can choose the other ASINs that are not selling that well. and target your hero products, and make sure you basically take as many placement within the product details page of your product as possible, so then other competition cannot take those placements. Then if you want to go even further, you can also do a sponsor display product targeting, so you can also take the sponsor display placements within your listing and defend your brand in there. And then you can also do branded keywords targeting, right? So let's say you're selling a water bottle, you're gonna use the brand name, the water bottle keyword, and then you can have ramifications, different basically iterations of this keyword, and then you define your main keywords where the brand is being used, and you can even find this with the search query report to understand how people find you. So if you see people using specific keyword with the brand, you're gonna defend those keywords, and then do exact match campaign on those keywords top placements. So you defend those placements and avoid basically people looking for your brand, ideally to then click on another brand and for some reason losing that sale. So that's in essence what is the brand defensive campaigns. But yes, usually this apply more when your brand is already on a more mature phase and you have multiple ASINs. Usually if you have 1-2 ASINs, this really doesn't apply to you, because in the first place you don't even have enough ASINs to do the pro targeting. You might do the keyword targeting one, define your brand names, but again, if you're in the early stages, most likely nobody's looking for your brand name. Okay. Awesome. Let's see which other question do we have in here. Let's see. Okay, great. This is the next question. How can I see how my competitors convert on the main keywords? Yeah, the way you can find these, I mean, there is two ways you can find how your competitor convert in the main keywords. The first one, I mean, first you can find what are the keywords that bring the most sales to your products, right? So you can do Cerebro, you can analyze the top 10 ASINs. If you're using Helium 10, you export it to Cerebro. And then you can use, for example, the new filters that the team just added, which is top keywords. Simple click, it tells you the top keywords. Basically what it does, it filters the keywords based on relevancy and making sure they're consistent across your competition and they have a respectable search volume. And based on that, you know those are the keywords generating the most sales. Now, that doesn't tell you how they're converting, right? You want to understand what is the conversion rate, what is the dominance in keywords. So that's where brand analytics is super powerful, because in brand analytics, what you can do, you can find basically the keywords that you want to understand how your competition is doing. You can then find what are the top 3 sellers on those keywords, and then they even tell you how much control they have on their keyword in terms of market share. And why that is important, because you may find that if the top 3 sellers control the 60-70% of the market, that means that sometimes it's not even worth it fighting for that keyword, because even in an ideal scenario, you're fighting for the remaining 30% of that keyword. And if there is other competition and the cost per click is high, ideally you're fighting for nothing. So then that's also very good to find out keywords that there is not a monopoly when it comes to just 2-3 keywords controlling those keywords, and you want to target those where you're going to have a bigger chance of success when it comes to conversions, when it comes to traffic, and eventually it should convert to sales if you have everything in place in terms of the offering, pricing, and so on. Okay. Awesome. So I think that's the last question of the day. I mean, that was very good session. I think we covered a lot of things. We covered very interesting, good questions today, and we also did the section of the news and discussing basically some things you should be taking consideration, and the deals and all of that. And yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm very excited with this new dynamic the show is taking, because I feel now, I mean, as I said, this is gonna keep evolving. If I find other ideas, you might see me in the street doing this these episodes, or bringing some kind of extra thing to the format. But for now, I think this is a good balance. Like, I make sure between news, covering things in the space, then we cover questions and answers, and then if even sometimes I wanna give you guys this space if you have specific product that you want me to audit. I think that would be also very interesting. If you're hearing this right now, you want me to do a full audit in live, we'll be more than happy. So you put your ASIN in there, I share my screen, I do an analysis of the listing, and give you some tips. And I think that also gonna give value to you and to our audience. So it's a win-win situation, right? Awesome. So thank you very much for everybody that's watching live. I appreciate all of you and the support. I mean, to be honest, we've been growing very fast for the last couple of weeks, and you can see the amount basically the support we've been getting across our channels and social media. So thank you very much for that. But yes, I mean, if you really like these sessions and you like other people for Discord, so feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Yes, remember all this is recorded, so if you are just jumping in late, don't worry. I'm gonna make sure this stays live, and also it's gonna be launching audio version. So if you're driving, you wanna hear me, that's what's an option. So thank you very much for everybody. I wish you an amazing week ahead. If now it's August, so most likely some of you are traveling. Have an amazing summer break, and see you next week. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.